Alright, we are recording, and let me see. The old man and his grandson is this one, and I'm just bouncing around a few things on the computer, but yeah, this one, very easy to spot them all. It's also a very short story, which does kind of help with that. It also doesn't need to be longer, but in any case. Got an old man who's described as being so old that his eyes are dim, his ears are dull, his hands tremble, and when he eats, he is likely to spill, and also even if he gets it into his mouth, it may drip out. Um, so not a positive image here, not a very good image of him. And he is living with his son and his son's wife, so son and daughter-in-law, and they become so disgusted with him that they put him in the corner. Not just in the corner, but the corner behind the oven, it even says. Which would certainly not be very clean because, excuse me, this almost certainly would be a wood burning oven. So you would have soot and such around the oven, and I would imagine that the corner behind it would be quite filthy. But that's where they put him, and it even describes that they don't necessarily feed him that much, and whenever he looks over at the table, it does actually say it's filling with tears, or I'm trying to remember exactly how I put it. Yes, his eyes would fill with tears. Would be full with tears. Also says at one point, because they gave him an earthenware bowl to eat from, which I'm actually not certain what an earthenware would imply for the specific material. I don't believe it's ceramic. I think it would be below that. Like it might just be from like a lesser quality of clay or potentially just mud even. Which I mean, hey, mud bricks can be quite effective, so why not make other things out of it? But in any case, his hands are trembling, so he drops that. It shatters. They scold him for that and then give him a wooden bowl, which that I would believe is worse. Yes, it won't break, but wood is porous. It also might be rough. It might not be smooth in there. But mainly it's it being porous, so it is potentially leaching things into whatever he's eating, but it's also what he's eating may leach into it. So he would be losing some to the bowl. There's the concept with, is it scotch that they put in barrels to age? And because some is actually lost to the wood of the barrel, and also then leaching out to evaporate. There's the angel's portion, because, you put in, I don't know, let's say 50 gallons to a barrel, I'm not sure. But when you finally tap it later, you may find only 49, and it's the angel's portion that is missing. That's the name for it. So I could believe that this wooden bowl would also be suffering from something like that as well. That can basically, this is a downgrade, and it is very much insulting. But it is what he's got. Yeah, for a few halfpence, out of which he had to eat, so it's also inexpensive. Don't know how much the earthenware bowl is, but this is not being described as very expensive. Well, as many couples would have, they have a son. Well, a child, but yes, a son, 4 years old. And they notice that he's pulling together a bunch of pieces of wood. So they ask him, what are you doing? And expecting he's just playing or something. His answer, I am making a little trough for father and mother to eat out of when I am big. This is when the parents know they screwed up. But yeah, they looked at each other for a while and presently began to cry. Because they realized that they were teaching their own son to not respect them, just as they were not respecting their father. Yeah, so the moral is very obvious here, which is to show respect for your elders, but also to be mindful of what you're showing your children. As in what behaviors you are doing that would be passing down. And so, yes, they do then bring the father back to the table, being well fed, and it even says that they never say anything when he spills any. I don't know, I think that may depend. Not in any harsh way, but I could understand commenting on making a mess. Let's clean you up. Let's try to figure out a better way to do this. Better way to help you here. But in any case, yeah, it is important, the whole, um, the behaviors you're passing down. So, well, I don't need to grab them, but they're over there. I mentioned before, I have physical copies of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings over there. I also have them on Kindle. And the last time that I read them, though, was actually the physical version. Now, why do I have the physical version? If I already had the Kindle version. I already had that. Well, I do see a value to that. And it is I don't have kids. I'm not in a situation to have them either. But it is still, I do think of some of the collection in my library, whether it's books or movies. I do think about passing them down, about sharing them. That I do care about this stuff, so I do wish to share it. Now, true, that's different from behavior, although in some ways, like, with the books, I want to read to them. And going even further than that, I not only would want to read to them, but the idea of building a shelf, having a shelf in their room, so there are books there for them. That is their copies. Like one book series that I absolutely put on there would be Chronicles of Narnia. Yeah, put that there. I would have my own copy too, but it's like, those are yours. So whenever you feel like taking and reading that book, you are free to do so. It is your book. Don't destroy it. That would be something I'd have to impress on them, but do that. But would still then read from them each night. My parents did that when we were younger. We actually did go through Chronicles of Narnia. I believe we did The Hobbit. I don't remember if we did The Lord of the Rings or not. I probably wouldn't do The Lord of the Rings for what I remember from my age when we were still doing that, because to me, Lord of the Rings is like teenager level, just as far as comprehension goes. The Hobbit is great for kids, but Lord of the Rings, I think you need to be a little older to really understand it. The content is fine for a child, just as The Hobbit is. It's purely comprehension. But there's also, like, I think of it in terms of movies as well, this idea of sharing them. And, like, what are good movies? What are movies that you value? And it is, for me, except for one movie. There's a whole one movie in my entire collection. And actually, no television show. But one movie. Everything else in my collection of movies and television, I want to be able to share. These are good movies. And not only would I want to share them, but I want to talk about them. Because I value them. Okay? I recognize what is good about them. I can also recognize what's bad about some of them. But wish to share that. That, again, is part of that whole behavior thing that you're passing down to your kids. And it does annoy me today seeing how many people seem to just be abdicating that responsibility, and it is a responsibility, is a duty, abdicating that to the internet. Whether it's letting kids just watch YouTube and you're not paying attention to what they're watching, or if it's Netflix, if it's Disney Plus, if it's any of those streaming services where somebody else is curating this for your child and you can't necessarily talk with them about it. It's like that is a problem, in my opinion, because you should be able to share with the child actively, not just passively watch it with them. I mean, even growing up, because I grew up in the 90s. So yeah, some of the stuff my parents wouldn't necessarily watching with me, like Family Matters or Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I watch Family Matters more. But Star Trek, oh yeah, I watched it with my dad. And he knew Star Trek as well. So that would have been that would have been akin to sharing. Not that he knew, because we're watching it when new episodes are coming out, not that he knew what to expect there, but it's still, like, he already knew the episodes, but he knew Star Trek, and so could share that. And so, one example would be, Trouble, I can never remember, is it Trouble with Tribbles or Trials and Tribulations that's the Deep Space Nine one? With that, something that, depending when that came out, I might not have been conscious enough of the original series to get the whole, wait, those are Klingons? They don't look like them. And Worf just going, we don't talk about it. To get that would have been something that my dad could have explained. That's that kind of active sharing. Just trying to think if there's anything else on that point. But it does matter. And even just holding these up, these are two movies that they just happen to be next to each other. I could grab a different pairing. But The Last Starfighter is one that I love this movie. I think it's a great movie, and would be on that shelf. I mean, not actually. I wouldn't want to be buying multiple copies for kids, and I wouldn't necessarily want to have a television in a kid's room, depending on their age. But this would be I put it as a low shelf movie, as in not low shelf, low quality. No, it's an excellent movie. But at any age, go ahead and watch that. Right? Enjoy that. I want to share that with you. RoboCop is another very good movie. This is not low shelf. It's a very good movie, and I would definitely want to pass it down. Would want to share it. And also share values from those as well. Maybe talk about it, because there are certain values in both of those. Even if RoboCop does show something very dystopic, it still is their values to learn from that. Strength of humanity, the importance of humanity. And with Last Starfighter, it's a hero's journey, which again, it's great because that's something to pass down that as well. The importance of taking on these quests, the importance of trying to do good, even if you don't necessarily understand it, and also the dangers that can be out there, and you need times to be willing to respond to them. Like the whole with Alex not wanting to kill, and it's like, yes, that's very reasonable, but there can also be times when, as wrong as killing is, it can sometimes be necessary. And then also with that, the whole being clever with it, not just going with brute force, because how Alex figures out how to, as the last Starfighter, figure out how to defeat an armada. It's all really, really impressive, and that's awesome. It's like, I haven't watched that for months, at least. Might even be a full year at this point, I'm not sure. But I can just talk about it, because I love it. I care about this story. I value it. Those two in this story did not value their grandfather. And that's what they were passing down to their son. That they did not value him. And then once they realized that they were passing down, then they realized we must value him. Because what is he learning now? He's learning not to value us. Value is very important. And that I think is part of the moral here. I mean, it might not be put that way, but it is still, we should be concerned with actively imparting our values to our children. And even just to other people, other adults too. Like sharing with them these things that we value, these things that we care about. So I'm just trying to think, like with The Last Starfighter, if I met an adult who didn't know it and I could share it with them, sure, let's do that. And let me tell you why it's so awesome. What it was like for me, growing up and being able to watch that when younger, things like that. The story that I have, and I know I've shared this in prior videos, I won't go through it now, but with how I found Murder by Death. That again is a story I would share, and I'd share the movie. It's a good movie. It's a very, very amusing, entertaining movie. Lower down that stack that I could have grabbed, Rocky. Rocky's another one. That, in my opinion, is a great example of Americana. I also have 7 vs. 7 Brothers here. Can't pull that out of the stack easily either. Another example of Americana. And it's like, I would love to be able to talk about these with people. And if I encountered somebody that doesn't know 7 vs. 7 Brothers, yes, I would recommend it. And I'd tell them about how, yes, you're seeing this element in the story, you're seeing this element in the story. And it's very interesting to see the characters develop in this way. But what also is very interesting is that, is it Millie? Hang on. Now, I'm going to pause for just a moment. Yes, Millie. Millie is Jane Powell. So is the first bride here, married to Adam. Millie's character is actually very disappointing in that movie, and I would love to be able to talk about that. And why? She has no development in it. Her character is flat across. And it's fairly evident by certain things. Like, even how I was saying before with The Last Starfighter, you do learn that sometimes you do need to fight. In 7 vs. 7 Brothers, they were, the 6 of the brothers, not Adam, the eldest, who was married to Millie, the 6 were taking a significant amount of abuse from men who were from the town, basically jealous, were trying to protect their relationships with the 6 brides, eventually, that the brothers do get. But they're taking all this. And the reason why is because Millie told them to, because Millie is trying to civilize them. By civilize, actually, I mean, to be real, it is emasculate them, to have them cease to be masculine. Which, to be fair, how they were originally introduced, over masculine. Not to necessarily in a toxic way, but the whole, yeah, I can live in this filth. I mean, it's not really filth, is it? I don't really mind. Um, yeah, not so good at that. And she's trying to correct that, but she's going too far, and basically tells them, "Don't defend yourself." And they accept that because they're trying to respect her. But then the men from the town, and boy, am I going to feel this could have been such a short video, but it's still, I want to talk about this because it's the whole sharing and values and passing it down. The men from the town ultimately actually attack Adam, and that's a line that they are not willing to cross, that they are not willing to leave alone. Because, like, no, Adam had nothing to do with this. You have no quarrel with him, and you just brought him in. Okay, now we're going to beat you up. And they do. And it actually ends with the 7 brothers standing there laughing as everyone is collapsed around them. And it's not... It is, in my opinion, a joyful laugh of, yes, they've done this, they've expressed their masculine dominance, and this all happened at a barn raising, but I can absolutely see that the very next thing that happens is they're helping all the men they just beat up away from the site, and that then they will build the barn themselves. And it's like, no, you're injured, don't worry, we got this. That, nope, fight's done. But what else you see is Millie crying at this point. And it's like, they literally just were defending your husband. But she seems to have no cognizance of this, no understanding that actually is necessary. That you do want them to have that character to them. But never see that with her. I mean, she should have had some reaction, and she scolds them later over this as well. And it's like very flat. That is the greatest weakness of the film. That legitimately is, which is disappointing. I don't know if because the musical for the Broadway production came later. I don't know if they tried to correct that. But it is the greatest weakness of that film. And again, that's something to share. That make the point. And by the way, you see it in a lot of classic westerns where there is like, I think it's in The Rifleman, where there's a guy who's a former. I don't remember if he's a former bounty hunter, but like former lawman, somebody who is skilled with the gun. And his wife has made him become a storekeeper. He's fine. He will do anything for his wife. He loves her. That's great. But trouble has come to the town, and they need his help. But she made him promise to give up his gun. She's emasculated him. Ultimately, though, and not only with she's not only emasculating him, another way to put it is she has stripped him of his pride, which he is willing to give up because he loves her. But at the same time, stripping away pride in that way is very dangerous. Now, what ends up happening is he defies her, straps on a gun, goes out, and helps. And the bad guys are defeated, good guys all live. And then it's like, all right, so you're going back to the shop? Nope. He and his wife decided together because she was against the violence. That's fine, makes sense. But seeing him use it properly, which was to protect others, it was like, nope, there's a job for a sheriff that's opened up in this other town. We're going to go there. We're going to take that. So it's, finding that balance there between essentially where Millie was and where a man more so wants to be. Which, still, again, beginning of Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, they're really far over there. So it's still, bringing it back so it's balanced. That is still necessary. And that's a moral to those stories. But it's still, these stories, it's about passing stuff down so that you understand that, yes, you may be capable of violence. That doesn't mean you should turn to violence all the time. Which is essentially what Millie was trying to argue, but she was going too far with it. She was emasculating them. That, no, violence is never the answer, never turn to violence. But they accepted that onto themselves. But the moment Adam was hurt, nope, we protect. We protect. I did not think I would be talking about Seven Brothers today. But it is such a good movie. It really is. And a couple stories about that, actually. And hang on, just The Valiant Little Tailor is next. Okay, one that I want to share. I can't remember what the other story was. I said a couple stories. I don't remember what one of them is. But one of them, was, as I said, it is such an example of Americana. It came out the same year and from the same studio, which I guess would be Warner Brothers, because I mean, it's right there. I can see the logo on the side. But that might just be, it's a Blu-ray who published the Blu-ray. In any case, it was the same year as Brigadoon. Brigadoon is a major Broadway production. Okay? Like, it's very well known, very impressive production. You look into the trivia of Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, and it talks about that the studio actually siphoned money away from Seven Brides to give to Brigadoon, because Brigadoon was going to be the big thing, would have been the main success for musicals that year. That's what they believed, and they were completely wrong. Seven Brides trounced it, and it makes sense because the main market was America for this movie. I mean, yeah, it would have been in other places as well, but mainly in America. As I said, Seven Brides is absolutely an example of Americana. Brigadoon is set in Scotland. Now, I shouldn't try doing that. I can't even tell what my accent is. I shouldn't try to do somebody else's. But it is a Scottish story. Yes, featuring technically two Americans, but I only know the film, by the way. But still, it's a Scottish story. Americans don't really care about that, and it's magical. It's about magic as well. It's like, what? It didn't succeed here, and why would it? Because that is such a different story, and such one that feels remote to Americans. Why would we bother watching it? But Seven Brothers, nope. That is completely Americana. I'm trying to remember, where is it set? Oregon. Okay, 1850s Oregon. Which, to be clear, we're talking frontier land, and the brothers are frontier people. Like, there's also a large aspect that they are very different. They live up in the hills away from the town, and part of the reason why the men from the town were jealous is because they look down on the Pondabees. They look down on them because they're the hill people, essentially. Yeah, I mean, it really is such a good film. It truly is. Now, Rocky is also an example of Americana. Don't need to go into that. But man, that is such a good film as well. Oh, man. Maybe I should rewatch that. I should rewatch both. I should watch all this stuff. I only have movies, except for one. I only have movies that I enjoy. And that's why I'm able to sit here and just talk about them. Okay? Even ones that it has been years. I'm actually not sure if it's Seven Brides or Rocky. It's been longer since I've watched. It's been no more than 3 years, I think, for either. But still, I can just sit and talk about them. I got Bridge on the River Kwai. I've not watched that for a while. But I could talk about that. Batman Begins, Dark Knight, just what I'm seeing around here right now. I can talk about those. Great Dictator, it's been a while since that. I can talk about that. That's actually got some other history to it that's interesting outside of the movie. I mean, it's just... I mean, I've got Jaws here that's been a while. I can talk about that. And not stories within stories around it. It's been a while for Minority Report, but that's not as interesting to talk about. It is interesting, and I do enjoy it, but I could do that. But yeah, I mean, it's just... I value it, want to share it, want to pass it on. Just like how those parents learned with their own son. Because while the example in the story is extreme, is making sure that he will respect them, it is also a lesson about other things as well. Like, just... assuming it is that the father goes out and works, the mother stays in the home, which isn't necessarily going to be right. If it's just the two of them, because the grandfather might not be very useful, she might be going out and helping as well. But still, is by doing that with discipline, and even doing it with joy, or at least satisfaction and contentment, that too will impress upon your child, or children. So, the moral is far more than just respect your elders, or make sure that your children see you respecting your elders. It's make sure your children see you acting the way you want them to ultimately act, that you need to be an example to them. Which is also something that makes it a little funny, the whole threat of, I hope one day you have a child that turns out just like you, and it's like, well, yeah, but at the same time, don't forget that the parents saying that is potentially teaching them as they were taught. I mean, it's like you're also probably an example of being your own parents. Plenty of parents don't like being told that. Anyway. Wow, this went for a while. Sorry. But, I mean, yeah. I love this stuff. I really do. And just, I won't because I got other things to do. I got plenty of books I want to go through. There's that part of me that would actually take, like, some of these movies and just split them at the chapters and try talking about each. There's a part of me that would love to do that, but I got plenty of books I want to go through, plenty of books I haven't read yet. Everything in my collection, with one exception, actually, that is one exception, I have seen. At least parts of, if not in totality. One exception, Star Trek the Animated Series. I will get through that at some point. Not sure when. But I got more books I haven't read, so I do want to go through those. Anyway. Cursor is over the button. So I should say, see you next time, and hit the button.